Hello viewers, welcome back to our lecture series on CSR, and today I am going to tell you about the basic differences between mandatory CSR and Gandhiji's trusteeship model, and that will basically be our focal point of discussion. And in the previous lecture of mine I tried to tell you about what is trusteeship all about, what were the mandatory provisions of CSR, and now it is time for us to understand the basic visible differences between the two. What are the basic differences? And I would also try to give you some live examples to increase your better understanding of the subject of this CSR and Gandhi's trusteeship model. Let us talk about some visible differences. If you look at the CSR initiative by the corporate entities, they are basically proliferating. You will find that rapidly companies are joining joining their hands, and they are contributing to the betterment of our society. I shall be in due course of my lectures I shall be sharing with you the data also, that how many companies are contributing, how much, what is the corpus, what is the total size of this CSR expenditure, which is very huge, very significant also. And then you would realize the beauty of this provision, that the way this entire PPP model, that is public private partnership model, and CSR provisions, they are creating huge change. They are making a difference the way the society is being developed, the way the country is being developed, because it is not the sole responsibility of the government to do everything, because we are the one who belongs to the government, and we have our own democracy where we have elected our representatives to take care of the national well-being. And here we have to understand that these CSR initiatives, they are proliferating, and the responsible and ethical component of CSR is at times it is forgotten. I would not say that it is in totality it is happening, but there are some exceptions where it is there, that the essence of it is somehow compromised at certain places. So earlier the engagements were personal and emotional. Like if we talk about the Tata taking care of a particular city called Jamshedpur, which is known as Tata Nagar, and they have chosen a city which was highly backward. It was very much a backward village, I would say, and now it is being developed at Jamshedpur, and we have witnessed that. Or if we talk about Birla and the way they have developed the Pilani, and it is known for their own initiative, their contribution. They have established a very an institution of national importance to this place. Pilani is known for an institution, educational institutions, which is being developed by the Birlas. So if we talk about the contribution or emotional engagement of Tata and Birla, we have a live example of two cities, the development of two cities or two backward places. One was in Bihar and another is in Rajasthan, and you would find the kind of contribution they have made. And it is visible. So there was an emotional connect while doing all this. There was no mandatory CSR. They themselves realized the need of doing all this. And if you talk about the trusteeship model of Gandhiji, it expects the change of orientation. We are expecting the change of orientation. Gandhiji expected the change of orientation, the way you look at the things, more sensitivity towards society, while CSR is something coming from outside and sometimes legally back to. So if we talk about the basic difference between the CSR and trusteeship, I would say that CSR is something which is coming from outside, which is being imposed on us, that we have to, since we are fulfilling those conditions, we have to spend 2% of our profit on CSR activity. Whereas the trusteeship model says that we have to realize we are more sensitive towards the social development or our society, and we think that after using a certain portion of our income, for rest part of our income or wealth, we are basically acting as a trustee or a custodian of that property, and we should or wealth, and we should take care of the society as a whole. So this trusteeship model expects change of orientation, whereas CSR talks about something which is coming from the outside, and of course there is a legal binding to spend 2% of your profit on CSR. And if you look at the Companies Amendment Act 2019, it had penal provisions for CSR non-compliance as well, which I have already discussed in previous lectures of mine, where I told you about the penal provisions, the legal framework of CSR when we were talking about that. Whereas in trusteeship model there was no penalty. there was no penal provision. If you realize that yes, you should work for the society, for the betterment of society, you should contribute towards that. While Gandhiji was making an appeal for change of heart to imbibe virtues of trusteeship, if you look at CSR, it is basically expecting a responsible behavior, and this responsible behavior is coming as a matter of legal compliance, that you should act responsibly. Companies must act responsibly. So initially we started with the same idea. We talked about the voluntary guidelines, national voluntary guidelines, which we used to call as NVGs, and now we have the entire legal framework for this specific purpose. But honestly speaking, I personally feel that despite all this, we have a large number of corporate entities which are contributing much ahead of 2% of the legal binding. There is a provision of 2% spending 2% of profit on CSR, and we have number of companies which are spending much more than what is expected from them, what is coming as a legal binding, because they are thinking of society. They have their own plans for society, and they are taking care of that. So it is nothing but the transformation of people by after. Of course, I personally feel they must have gone through that literature where Gandhiji talked about the trusteeship model, and they are basically behaving or acting like a real trustee of our society. So generally, if you look at the multinational corporations, their ties to society have been non-emotional, and it is more of economic, with some exceptions to it. There are certain exceptions to it. There are certain corporate entities which are still having emotional connect with the society, but generally it is being observed that they have a non-emotional and economic ties with certain expectations from the society. Although I would once again reiterate that there are various exceptions to it. There are a number of corporate entities which are working much ahead that 2% of legal binding. And basically while quoting this, I take pride in saying that these corporate entities, they have earned a very good name in the market as well, in the eyes of the customers also. So under CSR, if you look at corporations, they are required to spend a small share of their profit, but in a trusteeship, trustees are allowed to keep only a small share of what they have earned or inherited. So here is the line of difference, point of difference. In CSR, they have to spend whatever they have earned, they have to spend a small share of it, whereas in trusteeship model, whatever you have earned, a small share you have to keep for yourself, rest the entire money, the entire wealth is supposed to be spent for the social welfare. This is the basic difference between the two. But to start with the CSR provisions, I personally feel that it is good that companies, they are working ahead in their own direction of generating wealth. There is no problem, and they are along with that, hand in hand, they are contributing to the betterment of society as well. So there is no harm. So with Gandhiji, it was basically means justify ends. If you have to sum it up, you would say, you can say that with Gandhiji it was means justify ends. But unfortunately, in the process of generating wealth, the means ends debate has been sidelined and ends have gained supremacy. What matters is the ultimate goal, the ultimate profit, what you call as your economic value added as on date, what is your EVA. Gone are the days when we used to talk about ROI, EPS, then diluted EPS. We used to talk about the earning per share. We used to talk about the total earnings. Now we talk about the EVA, economic value added. What is the addition to the capital? So somehow that means ends debate has been sidelined in the present day scenario, and nowadays nobody talks about end means relationship, because the focus is only at the end, the ultimate result, that is the profit. And the value system, this cornerstone of any Gandhian idea, has been lost somewhere in the quest for development, and somehow it was compromised. That is why we have got this mandatory CSR. And if you look at the another side with mandatory CSR, the corporate world is finding it a little difficult. They are stressed to find out on whom to spend the money and with whom to partner to carry out CSR activities. But once there is a problem, there is a solution also. Government of India, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, by the way of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, is continuously working on offering answer to these questions and eliminating, trying their level best to eliminate all these ambiguities or confusions which corporate entities at times they were facing. And I personally feel that the way they are frequently publishing their FAQs with their answers, they have offered greater amount of clarity to the corporate entities. And this inventory is of course ever expanding, and companies can now contribute towards research also and towards different areas of development. Now, trusteeship and CSR provisions, they are not competitive. At the end of the day, we have to, my dear learners, we have to understand that these two provisions are not at all competitive. They are not against each other. They are basically complementary to each other. And we need to revive our homegrown tradition of giving back to society in form of altruism and social responsibility. And we need to revisit trusteeship and make it suitable for modern times with certain changes. I feel that there is a need to make it, there is a need to customize that very model of trusteeship as per the present day requirement. And it requires of course certain changes, because everything has changed drastically and dramatically. And think of Gandhiji's time and today's time, you would find the huge difference in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of our basic needs, in terms of our research development activities, and everything has changed. So why not revising this trusteeship model also? And something forced from above has never worked. If we force even our students to study, they are not going to study. It should come from their inside, that yes, I have to work hard to gain knowledge. So the quest for knowledge is something where we have seen that if you force a learner to imbibe certain things, to mug it up, it never gives result. So the something which is forced from above has never worked. What works is the inner voice. So commitment for society from within has to be there, and for this the rigorous reorientation of attitudes is required. What I feel that end means debate needs to be revived. How a company makes its profit before it shares the profit needs to be known by the stakeholders. So whatever profit I am making as a company, my stakeholders must know the way it is generated. And even this, and this is basically the essence of trusteeship model. And all Western thinkers, they are basically, time and again they are emphasizing that the way you make profit, that also is equally important. It's not like that you are making huge profit by some unethical ways and means and then working for the welfare of society. That is not the right way. That is not the rightest path. And that was never suggested by the trusteeship model of Mahatma Gandhi, where he talked about acting as a custodian towards the development of society. So trusteeship should go beyond redistribution of wealth, and as of now I would say that they should also think about sustainable development. They should also talk about the environmental issues, concerns which we are facing as of now, and there are environmental and common concerns like land, air and water. Water level has gone down at many places, and water bodies like ponds and rivers have become filthy. Air quality index, if you look at, has been alarmingly very high. So trusteeship need to be adopted and extended across the globe, albeit with certain changes to suit the requirement of our own time, which is being called as making it as per the present time requirement. Or in Hindi we call it making it Samayanukul, Deshanukul. So according to our country's requirement, according to our ecosphere, or according to our own requirement of our ecology, we should make certain changes into the trusteeship model. So trusteeship may seem to be an utopia, but we have reached a stage of development from where we are on the brink of abyss, and this development has been very expensive. We have earned lot of money, but this earning of money is very expensive, because this money has come at the cost of contaminated land and water bodies, polluted air, falling trees, witnessing environmental degradation, and new form of problems like global pandemics, which we have recently witnessed. So the cost of it is very high. This development cost, the cost of this kind of development is very high, and we should think of sustainable development, and with trusteeship model it can be done. So trusteeship need to be extended, and every individual and organization, they should of whatever magnitude, they have to consider themselves as a trustee for environment and all those who are underprivileged. So we should think from that perspective. And if we talk about the contribution of trusteeship, Mahatma Gandhi's idea of rich as trustees can make an effective and sustainable difference. So if you really want to make an effective and sustainable difference, we have only one way, that is called implementing this glorious model of trusteeship given by our father of nation. It's time for us to take it further, and henceforth we should think of customizing trusteeship model according to our own present day requirement. I don't feel that we should take it as it is. We may modify, we can make certain changes wherever it is required. We are not against, we should not say that nobody is allowed to create wealth. You are allowed to, and that was never the idea. Idea was to ensure that in place of fighting, in place of having a rich poor divide, we should have a win-win situation for everyone. And the key concern was, one of the key contribution of Gandhiji was inculcating ethics in various walks of life, including the realm of business. So he used to talk about, by his own life, he gave a message. His entire life was basically a message, and you would find that including ethics in various walks of life, including the realm of business, was the basic motive. And he considered creation of wealth as a major social contribution, and his primary concern was how the wealth is created and the way in which it is being used by the people who have earned it. So he was quite convinced that there could be a fair deal in business and it would not hamper its growth. Now, as far as the live example of trusteeship is concerned, you can find one name if you read the history of trusteeship model, and if you read the literature available of that time when Gandhiji experimented this very model of trusteeship. So it is basically a tried and tested model. So there is a live case study of this trusteeship which you can find in certain publications, and the name of a business man which comes here is the name of late Jamnalal Bajaj. And there is a very good article by Ramchandra Pradhan and CBK Joseph, and they have published in the name of Business Ethics, Corporate Social Responsibility and Trusteeship. And it is very much available online also on Gandhi Ashram Sevagram website. And a person to whom Gandhiji considered as a torchbearer, it was basically the Jamnalal Bajaj. And he used to say that he considered Jamnalal Bajaj as the first convert of his socialistic vision of society based on his idea of trusteeship. He used to say that he is the first convert of his idea, and he has basically implemented what he was thinking of or expecting from a businessman to do. Gandhiji wrote a paragraph about Jamnalal Bajaj in his popular magazine called Harijan, and in that he wrote that whenever I wrote of wealthy men becoming trustees of their wealth for the common good, I always had this merchant prince principally in mind. If his trusteeship did not reach the ideal, the fault was not his. I deliberately restrained him. I did not want him and his enthusiasm to take a single step which in his cool moments he might regret. So Gandhiji, in this very para, he has written that the person was all set to donate everything, all set to contribute everything for the development of society, but it was he who stopped him, because he had this fear that it should that out of enthusiasm he is going to take a single step in which he is going to contribute everything to the society, but he should not he never wanted him to to have any kind of remorse or any kind of regret later on, and that is why he stopped him. He said ki fine, what you are contributing to the development of society, that is okay, but you should not go to that extreme where you contribute everything. So it is very much available in the literature on trusteeship. When you read, you would find, and these are not my words, these are the words written by Mahatma Gandhi himself in his magazine. And Jamnalal tried to adapt his life to the overall thinking of Gandhiji, and he took some major steps also towards approximation of Gandhian ideas on trusteeship, and he went much beyond the idea of CSR. And briefly I'll be telling you what he did. He came from a business community, and he inherited a small business in cotton from his grandfather, and he, with his hard work, commitment, dedication, he increased his size of business, and fairly large business house he could establish. And then later on he expanded not only his cotton business but also took new fields like steel, sugar and other segments. And what is more significant, or what you call as noteworthy, that he never deviated from the path of ethical dealing, fair play and business rectitude. That was that I can say briefly about Jamnalal Bajaj. When we talk about a person who could basically walk the talk of Gandhiji on account of trusteeship model. It is to be noted here that he was pursuing all ethical dealings in business and other walks of life even before he had met Gandhi. So he was a man of values and ethics, and initially he started philanthropic activities mostly in the then Bombay and now Mumbai, Vidarbha and Rajasthan. Gradually it expanded throughout the country, across the nation. He started working. There are one or two notable donations which he has made, and it is available in the history, also in the literature also, that he donated a sum of rupees 31,000 for the institute set up by Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose in Calcutta. While many businessmen went back on their promise to support J.C. Bose, and he contributed at that time, this rupees 31,000 used to be a huge amount, and he donated this much of money to J.C. Bose for establishing his own institute. And another instance comes about the now Central University, that is Banaras Hindu University, where on the request of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, he donated a sum of rupees 50,000 to the library of BHU. Which is a central university now. So these two are the notable examples, notable donations, and the list is endless. And these two donations basically reflect the commitment of a businessman to the cause of education, though he himself was not very much or what you call as highly educated, as far as his education was concerned. And he was very much into business. He was educated, but he never went into higher education, but still he had that concern for the development of our nation. And there are many such instances of philanthropy in his life. And while opening a new accounts book on October 20th, 1922, he prayed to Goddess Lakshmi to grant me wisdom to carry on business with honesty, and grant me prosperity in business and the good sense to utilize it for the benefit of the country and afflicted people. So see, imagine a person while praying to Almighty is not demanding for his own development. The person is demanding that you should give me you should actually show me the path where I am working for the benefit of country and its afflicted people. So while implementing this very idea of trusteeship, what are the challenges? It is clear that Gandhiji's idea of trusteeship is not impossible. Although it is difficult, it might be difficult to realize it in actual life, in reality, but it is not impossible or what you call as impractical. Practically you can do. And Mr. Jamnalalji, through his actions in various fields, he has demonstrated that given the will and determination, you can definitely implement this very model of trusteeship. And what it requires is a feeling of detachment, renunciation and high ideals, as they are basically the prerequisites of this very model of trusteeship, where we should have a great will to suffer and sacrifice. And honestly speaking, people think that why to go for suffering, why to sacrifice? But basically these are the two basic foundations of trusteeship model. And the quintessence of Gandhiji's trusteeship, if you ask me, I would say that it lies in running business on ethical lines and using one's earning for the welfare of others. That is the basic motive, and Jamnalal's entire life was devoted in actualizing Gandhiji's ideas of trusteeship in true spirit. So this was a live example that a person, a businessman who could contribute to the betterment of society in this manner also. So transforming or implementing trusteeship is not impossible. This is basically you can find reflection of the same in the life of a businessman called Jamnalal Bajaj ji, and Gandhiji himself has endorsed his name. So if we talk about trusteeship versus mandatory CSR, to conclude, I would say that both are complementary, not competitive. They are not against each other, they are complementary to each other. Mandatory CSR will bring discipline. At least in a disciplined manner, in a defined manner, corporate entities will contribute towards the betterment of society. Whereas trusteeship, if you ask me, I would say that it will ensure the expression of inner voice, and we have conscious corporate citizens in India if we implement this very philosophy of trusteeship. And to conclude, I would once again like to reiterate our Indian philosophy, where we say that Jivane Yavada Danam Syat Pradhanam Tatodhikam Ityesha Prarthanasmakam Bhagwan Paripuritam. Meaning thereby, a person is praying to Almighty that it is my humble desire that whatever I earn during my entire life, I should give more than that. I should donate more than that. I therefore pray to you to fulfill my this humble desire. So we belong to a country where we talk about Jivane Yavadadanam Syat Pradhanam Tatodikam, where we want to donate more than what we have earned. And if we believe me, if we implement it in this manner, CSR is going to make a remarkable difference. With this, I am ending today's lecture of mine. I hope you must have enjoyed my lecture. Thank you so much.